such an honor to bring in a cat who's been responsible for so much great music on the bandstand. And at this point in my career, as a journalist, as a broadcaster, as an advocate for the music, this guy's been putting it out there for people for the last 5 decades, and came to me at a time like anything else. Divine timing in life is the truth. Ray Reach, welcome to the Jake Feinberg Show.
Thanks for having me. Nice to be on.
It's an honor to have you, man. You know, I just kind of wanted you to talk a little bit about, excuse me, the opportunities to. Did you play on the Chitlin circuit at all? Did you ever go out on a circuit with a black band?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Can you talk about an experience playing where the floorboards were coming out and the nails were coming out of the boards?
Yeah, I've played all over the place. One of my good friends is a trumpet player named Bo. Bo is a nickname. I played with him for a year or so before I found out his first name was Collins. But Bo's a great trumpet player. He actually played with with Lionel Richie and his band. Actually,
the Commodores, yeah.
Yeah, the Commodores. And he did the horn arrangements for the Commodores.
Wow.
And I met him actually through Cleveland Eaton. He was the bass player from Birmingham, just died a couple of years ago. But he played with the Ramsey Lewis Trio in Chicago for, I think it was 11 years. And then he came back to Birmingham, his hometown, and for a while. And then I worked with him then. And then after a couple of 3 years in Birmingham, he went on the road with the Count Basie Orchestra. He was a bass player for the Count Basie Orchestra for 17 years. And Cleve and I worked in bands together.
That's how you found out about me. Is that right?
Yeah.
Because I'm telling you right now, the first question I was going to ask you was, I want you to talk about the baddest cat in the world. Cleveland freaking Eaton, man. It's one of my favorite interviews that I've ever done. Mancini, first call bass player in Chicago, made the funkiest records as a leader. Did you know him before he left for Chicago?
No.
So
I knew him.
Yeah.
He had already been in Chicago for that, whatever it was, 10 or 11 year period. When he came back to Birmingham is when I met him. And Bo Berry was a friend of his.
Wow.
And we had a small band. We worked with either a quartet, sometimes a quintet.
Oh, my God. This must have been the most burning music ever.
Yeah, it was a good band. There's no doubt about it. I worked all over the country with Cleve, all over the U.S., and even did a few gigs over in Europe.
Really?
With the Cleveland Eaton. He had a big band for a good many years called the CEO, the Cleveland Eaton Orchestra.
He was larger than life. I remember him, obviously doing the Ramsey Lewis Trio stuff, and then there's also just, I'm blanking. It's a Count Basie, but it's the trio, and it's him, and I forget who's playing. I guess it would be guitar. It's just he is. Did you did he play electric bass on those gigs, or was he playing upright?
Mostly upright. Occasionally he'd bring out the electric, but the upright was really his favorite.
So
when
you just talk a little bit about like that, the scene that you sought out when you were a younger musician in order to push yourself out of your comfort zone in order to grow, sort of hearkening back to that Chitlin Circuit original question.
Yeah. Well, I don't know if you know this about me, but when I started studying classical piano when I was 6 years old, and played up until I got into high school. But when I started playing in pop rock bands, I was a lead guitarist.
Damn.
And because it was during the British invasion, the Beatles, and all the British groups were popular then. But then I also played guitar and keyboards later on with some of the local, as you say, Chitlin Circuit bands. I actually played with a band called Putnam and the Stormers.
Oh boy, this is where the rubber meets the road for the Jake Feinberg show. Dude, this is so ridiculous. Oh, wait, hold on a second. I want to be clear. You're talking like Cream, Mahavishnu, or McLaughlin kind of stuff, or even like you're talking like Ed Sullivan Beatles.
Well, we did a lot of the Beatles stuff.
Yeah.
Of course, I loved Eric Clapton and Jeff Beck and that whole English crew, the great guitar players, Jimmy Page. I don't know if you realize that Jimmy Page, the lead guitarist in Led Zeppelin, was actually the bass player in the Yardbirds.
Definitely was not on my radar. That's badass. I did not know that.
Yeah, and they had Jeff Beck and Eric Clapton on the lead guitars. They swapped back and forth, and Jimmy Page was the bass player.
Whoa. Yeah. Is that widely known?
I don't think a lot of people realize that. I go all the way back to the very beginnings of the Yardbirds because they were very influenced by all the Southern R&B groups,
The Otis Reddings and the Dyke and the Hank Ballard and the Midnighters and those kind of cats?
Yeah, and you probably know about the...
I don't know anything, Ray. Don't assume I know anything.
Well, in Muscle Shoals, Alabama, Florence Sheffield Muscle Shoals up in the northwest corner of the state around the Tennessee River, and only about an hour and a half drive from Nashville, there were a whole boatload of great studio musicians. One guy that I would mention that I still stay in touch with is a great bass player and former studio owner in Memphis from Florence, Alabama, named Norbert Putnam.
Dude, my dear, we're all family, man. You asked Norbert about Jake Feinberg, and it's going to bring a big smile to his face.
How about that?
That is so, Norbert was one of those original Fame cats. I always forget that. And then, he ultimately, wound up, Chris Christopherson was cleaning out ashtrays, and the next thing you know, they're in the studio drinking a bottle of liquor, making records. It's unreal, dude.
Right. Well, as you know, Norbert spent a lot of time in Nashville and in Memphis, and played on a lot of recordings with Elvis.
Absolutely, he did. The guy, when I interviewed him, the guy who played a lot of bass on those records was Tommy Cogbills, probably another guy you knew.
Yeah, I remember him. I didn't know him well. I met him a couple of 3 times, and that's about it.
Dude, Ray, the mere fact that we're sitting here at 7:48 Pacific time, PM, and that you have had relationships with 2 of the baddest cats in Norbert Putnam and Cleveland Eaton for me, it's like the highest honor, man.
Well, I for years haven't done it in several years now, but they have a music festival, the W.C. Handy Music Festival in Florence Sheffield Muscle Shoals every year, and that's W.C. Handy was known as the father of the blues.
Absolutely.
He wasn't the first to play it, but he was the first to record it, and his recordings became world famous. And he was from Florence, W.C. Handy. And in his honor, they have an annual music festival, the W.C. Handy Music Festival, and it's a huge festival. It's like over 300 events in a 10-day period. And it's every kind of music. It's country music, it's classical music, it's rhythm and blues, it's jazz. And I was always for many years there, for over 20 years, I was one of the jazz guys that they brought every year.
Wait, I have to ask you something. So you were playing like chicken scratch guitar on the Chitlin circuit, or were you playing piano? I would love you to talk about the Poo-Nanny band.
Yeah, well, I played guitar with Poo-Nanny.
And you were playing you were playing leads and stuff.
I was playing lead guitar.
Dude, this is so bad. This is ridiculous, man.
It's interesting. And, then I split off, and I had a band based in Birmingham called American Circus. Circus spelled Cyrkus.
Damn.
And I had some of the Tuscaloosa guitar players played with me. I don't know if you're aware, but you know who Chuck Lavelle is.
Another cat that we had a ball. Dude, all these guys, dude, these are all my people, man. I mean, the legend.
Yeah, well, Chuck and I are still very good friends.
Oh, please send my love. Jeez.
A couple of recordings with me, and Chuck, as you know, was from the Tuscaloosa area and played with the Rolling Stones since 1982.
And filled in with the Allmans after Dwayne died.
That's right.
To me, that's the baddest shit. I mean, dude, that dude is, and he's all about the environment too. But I want you to talk to the audience, especially younger cats, about how in these earlier days when you were playing backroom bars, places where the PA systems were pretty antiquated. How you learned to create sonic expansion without amplification, via soul and via physicality.
Yeah, it's after you do it for a while, nowadays they have all this fancy stuff like in-ear monitors and all that.
Oh, God.
And, the in-ear monitors in certain situations are really quite useful and quite functional. But the thing that bothers me about wearing in-ear monitors is I can't get a feeling of knowing what the balance is on stage.
Exactly. That's the whole point of those things, is to put you in yourself, and then you're behind the beat because you're only listening to yourself.
Yeah. That's
but I'm curious, though, like early on, because I think whether it was Larry Coryell, Pat Martino, or Ray Reach, it's like because you didn't have all this amplification and ability to listen to yourself instead of reacting to the environmental sounds of the room and the stage, that's ultimately how you got your individual sound.
That's it. A lot of people don't realize that that huge sound, I don't know why this popped into my brain, that huge sound that Jimmy Page got on those Led Zeppelin recordings were mostly recorded with a little small Fender amp with a mic stuck in front of it,
Right.
And the way they mic'd it up and ran it through the system, it ended up getting a huge sound, but sometimes it's a Fender Champ, a little 5 or 10 watt amp,
Can you talk a little bit about the American Circus Band? Was that the first time? Ultimately, people like Cleveland went to Chicago. You decided to stay regional for the most part, and I'm curious about if you could talk about your first studio experience, either with a band or Suds and Duds commercial, or whatever. How much your first studio work ever?
Well, the first studio work was a small studio. I'm trying to think of the guy's name that started the studio on the east side of Birmingham.
Wow.
Just a very simple little studio.
You remember the name of the studio?
I can't remember the name of it.
That's all right.
It's been a long time
I know.
But
oh, man.
That was my first experience. And then I guess my first really professional level studio that I recorded in was called Boutwell Recording, which is still in business in Birmingham, by the way. It's mainly a commercial jingle studio now. Ed Boutwell passed away a couple of years ago. He founded it, and 7 other guys, when Ed decided to retire, 7 other guys bought into the studio. Mark Harrelson is one, and several other guys.
Sure.
And they still have a top quality studio there and produce commercial jingles primarily. That's what they're doing. And Mark was a good friend of the Tuscaloosa bunch. There was a guitar player named Tippy Armstrong.
Oh, this is so great, dude. I'm so honored to know Ray Reach, man.
He was an incredible musician. And I worked in American Circus with a now deceased, Tippy has passed on, and now deceased guitar player Joe Rudd, who was an amazing guitar player.
Joe Rudd. So you're going to consider this is the Tuscaloosa Cats.
Yep. and
Oh my
Joe was a
God,
good
this
friend of
is
his. And another guy from the Tuscaloosa area is a guy who's still in it, still has a studio in Macon, Paul Hornsby.
Another cat I've interviewed multiple times. Went to his studio in. I went to that studio. I'll send you that. That was he played. He leaned on the B3, man.
That's right.
And he was in the Almond Joys, But
That's right.
that's right. So I want to go back to this Boutwell recording studio. What was the session?
I don't remember what the session was exactly
Right.
that I played at the first one, but I remember playing through a Fender amp, and Ed was saying, "Oh man, it's too loud. Turn the amp down. Turn the amp." And of course, I'm a rock and roll guy.
Yeah, you're like, what?
Cranking the amp all the way up,
I mean, I guess maybe the better question is early on, that early American circus, was there actually was there an industry there, or was it just bands cutting demos and records?
It was band cutting demos and records. There was never a big commercial recording scene in Birmingham. There were always 2 or 3 studios. Another studio, one of the finest studios I've ever worked with, actually, is in the Birmingham area, called Bates Brothers Recording. Mm. It's been open 39 years, and it's a state-of-the-art studio, and they have a state-of-the-art engineer, Eric Bates. Really, out of probably a couple of hundred engineers I've worked with in my entire career, Eric is one of the top 3 or 4 I've ever worked with, and he's right here in Birmingham. Actually, a little town called Hueytown, Alabama, east of Birmingham. And look it up, BatesBrothersRecording.com. They have a solid-state Logic, about a $500,000 console there, but the best asset they have tremendous equipment. A great baby grand Yamaha piano, and they have an A100, which is a different version of a Hammond B3. It's basically the same organ. And but their biggest asset is Eric, and he's a fantastic engineer. I've recorded there with lots of guys that have come in from out of town. My album that I've been working on started working on the past couple of years. I brought Steve Gadd into town.
So classic.
I have a lady bass player who played on all but about 3 of the cuts on it, who's one of the top session bass players in Nashville, Allison Prestwood.
Oh, dude, that is ridiculous. I do not know that cat.
Yeah, she is currently touring. I don't know if she's on the road right now, but is about to go on another tour with Peter Frampton.
Right.
But Allison and I met in college. She was getting her undergraduate degree in bass, and I was getting my master's degree in music, and I was graduate assistant in the jazz program. My mentor there at Alabama was a guy named Steve Sample, who was an incredible arranger, and he founded the jazz program in Alabama, and he was an incredible arranger.
Wait, hold on. I need to know, who was this? Was this guy like in the Billy Strayhorn orchestra? What was his credibility? The guy sounds like a genius.
Well, he was.
Because that's the thing, Ray. No, this is what I wanted to get at. Because Roberta Flack went to Howard University, but they didn't teach jazz there at the time. And
right.
Eddie Henderson, trumpet player, was playing bebop or whatever, and the black security guard came in at Howard and said, "Stop playing that N music or I'll shoot you." So like a jazz program, that was a tenuous thing to do. Then Donald Byrd came in and revolutionized it. So when did Sample come in? Like early 70s?
No, he got there in the late 50s.
In the late 50s?
He was in the Air Force.
Right.
And he was stationed in an Air Force base in Alabama. And when he finished his run in the Air Force, he had the GI Bill that would pay for his college education.
Right.
So he went to the University of Alabama, and as soon as he finished his undergraduate degree, they hired him to be the staff arranger for the Alabama's band, the $1 Million Band. And he wrote practically every note the $1 Million Band played for about 40 years.
Holy mama.
A master arranger. I miss him so much. He died a couple of years ago at age 89. And his son, Steve Jr., is a fantastic drummer who's toured with the Glenn Miller Orchestra and some of the other big name big bands. And so anyhow, that's.
No, I want to ask you about Ray. I want you to because I wanted you to talk about your adherence to this sort of it's sort of a folk aesthetic, but it was adopted into psychedelic or fusion music, and that's just the idea of you never play the same song the same way once.
That's it.
All right. Now I want you to talk have you just always gravitated to that? And I'm talking like American Circus. Like, I guess you were still playing guitar at that time.
That's right.
I mean, can you describe the sound of this band?
Well, it was...
Because my point is I don't believe you ever played the same song the same way once in that band.
Yeah, it was generally the same form, but no, we never played exactly the same solos, and all of that kind of stuff. But that band, American Circus, I played guitar, and then later on, it was during the Vietnam area, and our lead guitar player got drafted. And I'm getting it backwards. Our keyboard player got drafted.
Right.
And somebody said, "Hey, Ray, you play piano? Couldn't you get an electric piano or something and play?" So I went out and bought a Fender Rhodes.
Oh, I love it. That's my favorite. You have that suitcase model?
Yeah, I've got the suitcase Rhodes that I bought
my God.
in 1960 something, and I bought a Hammond B3. I don't have that B3 anymore. I sold it, but I've got the new portable version of it. The XK2.
Yeah, and it's funny. I've been talking about this a lot. There's a synthetic quality to that still will never match the tone wheels of the B3. But that being,
it's amazing.
Go ahead.
I've used it on many recordings, and if you run the thing through a Leslie, you can't tell the difference.
I dig. I'm glad you brought that up, though. We're jumping around a little bit, but it's fine. Going back to the studio.
Yeah.
Do you remember a definitive early, whether you were playing as an accompanist? My point is that the records that I love the most, the ones that Cleveland was on on Ovation in Chicago, and other ones too that the Swampers were on, and Putnam was on. I mean, a lot of times there was something known as good leakage. There was room sound, and I wanted to know like an early seminal recording experience for you, and how the room was mic'd.
Yeah. I think the best sound that I get is in this area. Well, there's two great studios in this area. I mean, world class. One of them is Bates Brothers, and the other one is another one called Audio State 55. That was and it's owned by Dr. Henry Panion, who is former head of the music department at UAB. He's still a professor there. He's no longer head. I taught at UAB for 10 years, did the jazz band over there. And Henry is Stevie Wonder's arranger and music director.
Wait, Stevie Wonder as an arranger? That's I'm kidding. That's insane.
Here's the way it happened.
Yeah.
Stevie, for the first part of his career, he had his own self-contained band,
Right.
And then he decided his agent told him, "Stevie, you need to branch out and make some appearances with symphony orchestra." So Henry, Dr. Panion, had gone to college to get his doctorate at Ohio State, and there was a world famous gospel choir up there with like 300 voices. They hired him to write the arrangements for an album they were recording. And he did those arrangements, and the doggone album won a Grammy Award. And about that time, Stevie Wonder was about to embark for the first time in his career performing with symphony orchestras. So somebody gave him a copy of that CD, that gospel CD that Henry arranged, and he heard it and he went, "Oh, I love these arrangements. That's the guy that I want to be my arranger and conductor for live performances with symphony orchestra." So the story goes, one day, Henry's sitting in his office, and the secretary in the music office calls him on the phone and says, Dr. Panion, there's a guy asking for you on the phone. He says he's Stevie Wonder.
Yeah.
She didn't believe him. She thought it was somebody playing a trick on Dr. Panion.
It's always the way it is, yeah.
And Henry picks up the phone and answers Henry Panion, and he immediately recognizes the inimitable voice of Stevie Wonder.
Right.
And Wonder says, hey, I want you to do my arrangements and conduct the orchestra for me with symphony orchestra. And he did that for 20-something years with Stevie. By the way, did you know that Stevie's mother is from Eufaula, Alabama?
I didn't, but it makes sense, you know.
Her name is Lula Mae Hardaway, and she was a singer-songwriter herself. She wrote and co-wrote several of his early hits. She wrote Signed, Sealed, and Delivered.
Oh, my God. I love what you're dropping here, man. This is unbelievable. Did that American Circus band wind up touring with any other acts that were, you know, like... We did a 5-city tour with the Allman Brothers Band. Wow.
We were the opening band. And that way I got to know Dwayne and Greg. Dwayne was very soft-spoken, and Greg was more approachable and easier to talk to. But what genius musicians they were. I mean, my gosh. That two-guitar combination in the Allman Brothers Band was one of the most melodically beautiful rock guitar approaches ever. Yeah.
Wait, hold on. Was Barry Oakley still in the band?
Barry was still in the band. It was the original
the
band.
Original band. Holy cow, man.
Now, actually, I met them before they became the Allman Brothers Band. They were the Allman Joy.
Yeah, that was Paul Hornsby. Paul was in that.
That's right. And there was a local music store in Birmingham, Phipps Piano Company, and they were the Vox guitar and amp dealer.
Right.
And I was down there checking out the Vox amps, you know. And in walks the Allman Joys.
Oh, that is so... What is it? We're talking like 66?
Yeah, somewhere around there.
Yeah.
And they were in town playing. They were a cover band. They were playing at a local nightclub called the Crazy Horse on Morris Avenue. And here's something that's funny. They invited me down there to hear the band. And I said, well, I'm not 21. I'm too young to get in. He said, that's all right. You got long hair. You dress like us. We'll
get you in.
You can walk in with a guitar in your hand and pretend you're a part of the band. And I did.
Oh, my God. That is so freaking classic. That is so freaking great, man.
Yeah.
Did you? Yeah, no, go ahead.
Bill Cannell was another guy that was involved. He was the drummer in the Allman Joys for a while, and Bill just passed away a couple of years ago, but he ended up going back to school and finishing his degree in broadcast, and ended up being the head guy at Alabama Public Television.
That is unbelievable. You just being in that Seminole area, has the significance of music changed, live music changed in our society? To me, it used to dictate. I'm 46, but it used to dictate before my time. There were concept albums. There was tons of communal listening. There were tons of bands, and music. The messages of music dictated our culture, and and today I'm not so sure about that. I don't think it's even close.
It both dictated our culture and it reflected our culture.
That's right.
You know, it's. I hate to say it, but there's not as many quality pop records being made today, or at least I'm not as aware of as many that are high quality, like so many of those albums that came out that took music in a whole different direction, like the Allman Brothers, and like, all the West Coast stuff, the East Coast stuff. But still, my favorite stuff was the stuff that originated from the Southeast.
So no, I dig. No, I'm with you, and part of the reason is Aretha Franklin or Herbie Mann or Dwayne Allman had to clear a bar with the record company in order to get a record produced. And
That's right.
And now anybody can produce anything, and we're awash in mediocrity. So you're not, whatever you're hearing on the pop side of things is all dialed up. It's not real. But that stuff. I mean, I'm not saying they're not talented, but I'm saying the bean counters have taken over the A&R. You must have had a passionate A&R cat locally, because when you look at the Joel Dorns and the Jerry Wexlers and the Ahmet Ertegans, those guys knew music. But then now the bean counters are there, and all they care about is the efficiency model and what's mainstream enough to be able to commodify it.
Well, I have a very good friend who lives up in the Florence, the Muscle Shoals area, Dick Cooper. Dick was a journalist, and he had been at several of the newspapers in Alabama, and he finally got a job as a journalist for the Florence newspaper. And he was sent out on an assignment to do an article on Jerry Wexler. And as it turns out, he and Wexler just kind of hit it off on a friendship basis. And Wexler eventually asked Dick to be his personal assistant. And so Dick did, I don't know how many years he did that. You'd need to ask him.
Wow.
Dick's still living up there in the Florence area, and great cat. And he used to be one of the ones that was really involved in the production of the organization of the Handy Festival, but he's kind of retired from that. I think Dick's 77 or 78 years old.
Dude, he sounds like a force of
I'm
nature.
76.
Sounds like a total force of nature.
Yeah, and so that's just how he got that gig with Jerry Wexler. So if you want to interview somebody interesting.
Well, no, I mean, you've opened up the Pandora's box of, I have not been able to, I've tapped into almost every regional hotbed of this country, except, I've gotten to I was going to ask you, Spooners from Mississippi, did you know Delaney Bramlett and those cats, or were they already on the left coast when you were?
I didn't really know them.
Yeah.
I think I met Delaney one time. But my friend that we've talked about before, Wayne Perkins.
Oh my God, Wayne! My God,
Wayne toured with Leon Russell. Actually, the story goes that Leon Russell gave the Swampers the name the Swampers.
Sounds about right to me. I'm not. Maybe David Hood. David Hood might have told me that. I don't know. Maybe.
You boys got that deep groove. Sound like you come from the swamp. I'm going to call y'all the Swampers. And Wayne, as you know, toured with Leon's band for I think about 3 years, and Wayne actually dropped out of high school at age 14 to become a studio musician in Muscle Shoals.
Wow. That's
and,
insane.
Played with Leon. He's one of the original Swampers, and he's a very good friend of Spooner's. As you know, Spooner is one of the finest people I've ever met.
The man is I just am honored. I don't even know what else to say. I'm most familiar with him from his work playing Hammond on a lot of live Bob Dylan tour when Bob went on the Born Again tour in '80, and that was Fred Tackett, Jim Keltner, Spooner Oldham, and late great bass player Tim Drummond. But Spooner's organ playing on that is straight out of the Sanctified Church.
That's right.
It's ridiculous. And I'm a Long Island guy. My mom's from the Midwest, so I'm not completely New Yorked up. But there is something about the Gut Bucket South that is undeniable, and you're just the latest example of that. Did you know any of the cat, like Buddy Bowie and any of those cats, the Atlanta cats?
Yes, I did.
Did you do any
I
work
was
for them?
actually involved in a studio in Birmingham, Sound of Birmingham.
Wow.
And they had a direct connection to Steve. What's Buddy Bowie and that whole crew over there.
Right.
Bill Lowry. That's who I'm trying to.
That's
think
right.
of. That whole crew. And I did some recording on a few as a session player, either on guitar, sometimes on electric piano, sometimes on Hammond organ.
Which sessions?
Well, let's see.
Tommy Rowe?
No, I didn't play on Tommy's stuff.
This is important, Ray. This is not in your discography, man.
Yeah. Let's see. I'm trying to think. Joe South.
Yes. Oh my God, those are great albums.
For Billy Joe Royal.
Oh my God. Tony Joe White, was Tony Joe on? No, he wasn't on that.
No, he wasn't there.
Right.
Actually, Tony Joe. Eventually, when he died, he was living in Florence, Sheffield, Muscle Shoals area.
He was?
Yeah.
Wow.
That's where he had moved to. Now, if you talk to David Hood and some of that crew, they can fill you in on the details of that, because I'm kind of on the periphery.
No, but Ray, I mean, you're so humble, man. Like, we've been going at this 36 minutes, and you always deflect to somebody else. You never talk about yourself, man. And the truth is, just the mere fact that you were a session cat that wound. So you went down to Atlanta to record for them on a few sessions?
Yes, and they were affiliated with that Sound of Birmingham studio. Now, Sound of Birmingham is still open. It's run by a guy named Don Mosley, who was a local DJ on one of the radio stations. He was Don Martin on WSGN. But Don is pretty much a commercial jingle house now. But the old original Sound of Birmingham was built by Neil Hemphill, who was a plumber that loved music. And he built this beautiful studio there.
Oh, my God, this is amazing.
The guy that put the studio together is a wonderful guy named Gaston Nichols.
This is just insane.
Gaston, Gaston Nichols. Gaston's still with us. Man, he built studios all over the Southeast. Technical genius.
Absolutely. These cats were so avant-garde, but yet they were so ahead of the curve. I mean, did Ray Reach ever play like? Did you get into that Jan Hammer mini Moog stuff? Did you play synths?
Yeah, a little bit.
No, you're so not in. It's so not you. You're just an acoustic. Like, you're at the core piano. Well, I guess you play guitar too, but to me, like that George Duke stuff from that stuff was. He had those old school operator boards with the plugins. Oh, yeah. You know, those things were huge, man.
Well, you know, I have friends all over the country that have been into the recording thing. A good friend of mine, Misha Siegel, who lives in Woodland Hills, California, you know, just north of Beverly Hills. Now, the way I came in touch with Misha, he and Lou Marini.
Blue Lou, baby.
Yeah. He was touring with Blood, Sweat, and Tears over in Israel. Misha was born and reared in Haifa, Israel,
wow.
Then went to college and studied music in Germany and got degrees in music. And then he became friends with Marini, and he said, "Can you get me any session work if I come to New York? I'm dying to move to the U.S. to that bigger market." And he did, and he worked in New York and Lou helped him get session work there for a few years, and then he got the opportunity to take a job for Motown Records, and he was a producer for Motown. That moved him to California. And
what year? Wait, I'm sorry. What years was this?
I can't tell you exactly the years. You'd have to ask Misha that, but I just remember all of this happening in the rough sequence of it. And Yeah, Misha's been out there for 30-something years. I'll tell you how long he's been on the West Coast. His house is paid for. So, anyhow, and he's a brilliant composer and arranger, and he's actually playing a little bit of keyboard on my new album, and did some arrangements for it.
Yeah, I have to ask you about this. Did you ever get a chance to see Shep Shepherd or the guys like Jabo Starks and Clyde Stubblefield? Did you see James Brown and the Flames? Did you tour? I mean, were you on the same bill as them?
No. I'm trying to think of the guy's name. We just inducted him into the Alabama Jazz Hall of Fame a couple of years ago.
It was a Jabo Starks.
No. I know about Jabo, but I really
Jabo, don't know. No, because he played at a bar down there towards the end of his life in Alabama somewhere.
Yeah, that's right. And gosh, I'm trying to think.
It's all right. I'm stretching. You're really doing a fantastic job, man.
Anyhow, this guy was James Brown's horn arranger, but he's from
Fred Wesley. Fred Wesley. Yeah, no, I've interviewed. Dude, another great cat. I love Fred, man. Total bad, and you're right. Totally Alabama cat.
Yeah, great cat. But we inducted him to the Alabama Jazz Hall of Fame 3 or 4 years ago. After I left, like I said, I taught at UAB for about 10 years, and then I took a job as director of student jazz programs at the Alabama Jazz Hall of Fame. I did that for 15 years.
Wow.
And got to hang out with a lot of great jazz folks, you know.
Who'd you get a chance? I mean, actually, before we get into that, I'm curious about if you could talk to cats who are going to hear this around the world, you know, just what were some of the tenets, what were the most important leadership qualities on the bandstand that you were able to, that you tried to instill with these clinics or teachings that you would do?
Well, I tried to instill in the young kids how important it was to learn not just how to play a few chords, but how to really embrace the style. And the rhythm is the most important aspect of all music. So you got to start with the rhythm and do it accurately.
That's right.
And the way I learned how to play jazz is I would sit down and transcribe solos of famous jazz players like Herbie Hancock. I did over 50 transcriptions of Chick Corea's solos and learned those note for note. I did, lots of Herbie Hancock transcriptions. I did all of the great cats. Oscar Peterson.
Dude, you are. This is ridiculous. Wait, first of all, I'm curious though. You think that? I mean, maybe rhythm is different. I remember when Michael Shreve is a dear friend of mine, the drummer from Santana, and he.
Oh yeah, fantastic.
He just was like, you can transcribe an Elvin Jones solo, but it's never going to feel like that. It's never going to have those sheets of sound. Like, to me, like, you could transcribe all the Chick Corea you want, but that undulating rhythm, again, I know it's a percussive instrument, but you're really never going to get the feel of the exact same thing. Do you think that's time well spent, and why?
Well, I have some friends that I went to school with at North Texas that you'd be hard-pressed if you heard a recording of them. Who is that? Is that Herbie? No, that's Chick, isn't it? No, that's Oscar Peterson, isn't it? No. You know what I'm saying?
Sure.
I mean, they learn it, they make it sound right, they make it feel right.
Right, I dig. I guess more to the point, like, I would love you to talk about, and that's cool, but I just want you to talk because you are one of the cats, about beg, borrowing, and stealing from all your idols, and then how you think it's how you developed your own individual voice.
I'm not. It's just the combination of all the solos and just playing it night after night. I've been lucky enough to play several house jazz club gigs where I got to play it 4, 5, 6 nights a week. You just do it so much it becomes like second nature.
That's right. Right.
There's 2 kinds of memory. There's mental memory and there's muscle memory. And so, you know, I started off by painstakingly learning how to play scales and modes and all of that, but I don't think scales and modes anymore. I think melodies.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's the sooner you can get to the point that you can improvise, you can play what you're hearing in your mind. You know, and that takes a while.
How when Cleveland? What year did Cleveland come back from Chicago?
Gosh, I don't remember exactly.
83, early 80s maybe?
Early 80s, I think, yeah.
Yeah.
Might have been late. No, it was the early 80s because I was getting my master's at Alabama in the late 70s.
And
so then I came back to Birmingham, and that's when I kind of hooked up with Cleve.
Can you talk about, I mean, you guys, you've given a life of music, and you're still with us, but I just kind of wanted you to talk to younger cats, especially, you know, Ray Brown gets mentioned.
Oh yeah.
You know, and rightfully so. Let's be clear. And then, you know, you got Chuck Rainey, and you got Wilton Felder, and you got so many great Buster Williams and Bob Cranshaw, and I mean the list, Norbert Putnam, the list goes on and on. I mean, but Cleve is right there at the top. And I just wanted you to talk about what made him. Talk about his time feel. Where did he feel the pulse?
Well, that's the best aspect of his playing, really.
Yeah.
He was the driving force in any band that I worked with him in, you know, and the drummer was just lucky to get a gig playing with Cleve and just pay attention and team up with him and create the pulse, you know.
I just remember the drummer, Chubby Jackson, I think his name was. There's this incredible clip of Basie Eaton and this drummer, Chubby Jackson, and it's just, he was driving forward the whole time, Cleveland was.
Yep.
Always.
Let's see, who is the drummer? Gosh. You're getting me close to it. Chubby.
I thought it was Chubby Jackson. Hold on here.
Hold on. Drummer. Mm-hmm.
Wow.
No, I can't think of him now. Shoot. I'm trying to remember there was a drummer named Chubby.
Yeah, I have the YouTube clip right here. I can't play it because it's going to interrupt the phone call. Booty's Blues on Special Midnight. I don't know what show this is. It is unreal. Just the trio.
Yeah.
I'll get that name to you. So, who do you think was Poonanny a good leader? Did you learn stuff what not to do? Maybe.
Yeah, he was a good, very simple, basic R&B player, but he had it really happening. But then when I got to meet David Hood and all the cats, all the Swampers, they were the very definition of Southern R&B. That's it. And Roger Hawkins, of course, who was the drummer in the so-called Swampers rhythm section. But there's Milton Sledge is another one that people don't mention, but gosh, he did as many sessions in Muscle Shoals and the various studios up there as Roger did.
Wow. And so maybe was and why doesn't he get that kind of I don't want to say respect, but like no.
Well, it's because mainly most of the gigs that he played were touring gigs, and he toured with a lot of country musicians, you know. Because, gosh, I mean, how can you avoid playing country music if you live in Alabama? You know.
Absolutely.
And there was a guitar player from around Birmingham named Johnny Gore, and he played every bit as well as Chet Atkins. He was an amazing guitarist. And he had a young lady singing in his band. She started singing with Johnny Gore and the Cheaters was the name of the band. And her name was Emmy Lou Harris.
Yeah. Johnny Gore.
Yeah, she started singing at age 15 with Johnny Gore and the Cheaters over in Fairfield, Alabama, just west of Birmingham.
Did you get up? Did you have a chance to record at Fame or the other studio that is evading me now?
Yeah, I've recorded several times at Fame. A couple of times at Muscle Shoals Sound.
Muscle Shoals Sound. That was. Can you talk about an experience? Because that's you mentioned Sledge. He wasn't related to Percy Sledge, was he?
No.
No.
This is a white guy named Sledge.
A white Sledge. All right, I dig. And
gosh, there's another studio, a wonderful state-of-the-art studio in Muscle Shoals. Called, actually it's in Sheffield.
Yes.
Just south of Muscle Shoals. And that's the Nut House. Jimmy Nutt has the studio. It's called the Nut House.
My God.
And Jimmy Nutt is one of those amazing multi-instrumentalists. He plays keyboards, he plays drums, he plays bass, he plays guitar, and he's got a great studio too. I recorded there several times, and he's a super nice fellow. And but the original studio that got Wayne Perkins, gave Wayne Perkins a job was Quinby.
Ivy. Thank you, Quinby. Quinn Ivy. Yeah, that's the studio.
Quinn Ivy was the guy that started Quinby Studio. Quinn died 2 or 3 years ago now. But and that was the first gig that Wayne had. And a drummer from Birmingham named Jasper Garino said he had heard from Quinby, and he got Wayne the job at Quinby. And Wayne was working at Quinby when the Rolling Stones recorded their Sticky Fingers album at Muscle Shoals Sound, and they heard from the engineers at Muscle Shoals that, oh, you got to hear this kid Wayne Perkins. He's really a hot guitar player. So the way the story goes, Wayne is working on a session, and he's working hard on creating a guitar part for the session. And he looks up and he sees the Rolling Stones walk into the control room. And so that's when they hired him, and and took him to London to record on lead guitar on one of their albums.
Oh my God, dude!
Yeah.
Holy cow! What are you doing right now, man? I mean, you're my bag is like Dizzy Gillespie, Herbie Chick, and you're going into like British rock, and you're telling me that Wayne Perkins, on like sight unseen, they heard him and were like, "You're coming to London to record."
That's what they did. Then he headed for the West Coast, and he met and fell in love with Joni Mitchell, and they were boyfriend-girlfriend for 3 years.
Whoa.
And he played on her Court and Spark album.
Wait a minute. But hold on, dude. This is the problem, is that she was already with John Guerin at that point.
Yeah, that was a problem.
Dude.
Johnny didn't have too high an opinion of Wayne after that.
I mean, this is... You've gone to Never Ever Land on me, Reach. I mean, this is unreal, man.
Well, I think it was an on and off situation.
No, I mean, he obviously... But I want to ask you, who were the studio cats that preceded you? The first call guys that were going in to do... My feeling is like... Correct me if I'm wrong. I mean... was it Joe South? I mean, you recorded on quite a few albums and were part of that quote unquote Tuscaloosa wrecking crew. But I'm curious about the guys that came before you. Norbert Putnam can never stop talking about this guy Henry Strelecki. They were kind of peers.
Oh yeah, Henry was from Birmingham.
Oh my! Are you kidding me?
He actually played bass in the band with Johnny Gore and the Cheaters.
Dude,
And that's the one that
wow!
when young 15-year-old Emmy Lou Harris started singing with him one weekend.
Oh my gosh, dude!
But yeah, so
Were you familiar with that older guard of studio cats? If there was even a studio scene?
not really. I came into the studio scene in the '60s. So, and it was the late '60s. Let's see, no, middle '60s, I guess. 65 or something like that. Maybe as far back as 64. I started doing little sessions at Boutwell Recording and Sound of Birmingham and some of those. I didn't make it up to Muscle Shoals to record in several years later, till several years later. It was the early '70s when I recorded up there. And that's when I met David Hood and all of that crew.
Absolutely. No, I'm curious about, like, how big was who were the cats within that first call studio scene at, Sound of Birmingham and Boutwell?
Well, Sound of Birmingham, there was a great guitar player named Glenn Wood who was involved in that. Let's see, who else? Frederick Knight. He became had some R&B hit records and was eventually moved over to Jackson, Mississippi, and was one of the owners of Malaco Studios over there.
Whoa.
But he had a couple of nationwide hit R&B records. I've Been Lonely for So Long was one of them, but Freddie wrote songs and played keys.
Dude, this is so touching my heart. One of the first CDs I ever got in my life was a Frederick Knight CD. That's my favorite freaking tune. He did some stuff maybe with like up at Stax maybe.
Where did Fred? I think he did most of his recording over in Malaco in Jackson, Mississippi.
Wow, that is so beautiful, dude. That was a flash to like 30 years ago for me to see that. He had that. He was a serious cat, dude.
He's a seriously talented man.
Is he still with us?
He's still with us. Still lives in Jackson. I talked to him maybe a year or so ago on the phone.
Oh my God!
Mostly doing gospel music now.
That was the other thing, dude. We have all right. So listen, we've been cooking for an hour. Can we do another hour tomorrow?
Sure.
All right. Maybe you want to do noon your time?
Let me check my schedule here.
Yeah, whatever's good.
Yeah, noon would be fine.
I'll talk to you then, brother. We'll put all this together, man. It's be good stuff.
Sounds great.
All right, man. Have a great night.
You too.
Peace.
Bye-bye.
I got to be honest, one of the most humble cats that I have talked to in a long time. A guy who has had a decorated studio career, has learned from a lot of masters in choral music, in jazz, and has just continued to be a bright, shining light in this world through his musicality. Ray Reach, welcome back to the Jake Feinberg Show.
Well, it's nice to be back, Jake.
Yes, sir. Ray, I wanted to ask you, if my memory serves, somebody, I can't remember who it was. It might have been Blue Lou. It might have been Bones. Heck, it might have even been Dean Parks. But there's this one guy who was this forerunner of music at North Texas. And I'm just curious if you went on the road, if you were on tour, even at North Texas with Jack Peterson.
Yeah, I worked a lot of gigs with Jack, but he was approaching retirement when I first moved out to Texas, wow. And then he moved to Florida and helped build the program at, was it North Florida, I think, University of North Florida.
Right, we're at Jacksonville, right? Something like that?
Yes, right.
Yeah.
And I also knew Rich Madison, his partner. Jack is still playing great. He's 90-something.
Jack is still with us?
He's still with us.
Holy cow, dude. because that guy was seminal. I mean, he's from like that West Montgomery era.
Well, I don't know if you knew this, but he started the jazz guitar program at Berkeley.
Okay, so wait, so did he work, was he at North Texas or was he at Berkeley? I might be getting the two confused.
Well, he was at Berkeley, but he's from the North Texas area.
Oh, he's from Denton area.
Yeah, he's from Denton area, and after he got that guitar program established at Berkeley, he moved back home to Denton, and what a great cat! I mean, fabulous player.
Yeah, who he taught that now it's ringing the bell. Who was at Berkeley was John Abercrombie.
That's right.
This is unbelievable, and Peterson is still cooking the groove at 96 years old.
I don't know if it's 96. He's in his 90s.
Oh my! Sure. This is my so. You look back on your Ray. This is a really important question that I need you to talk about because I'm not a musician, but I don't care who it is. The cats that are teaching now in the academy, Berkeley. I mean, every school has a jazz program, but a lot of them. That was not the way they were educated musically. They learned on the bandstand. And
that's right.
I just wonder what you feel like is necessary in the modern era for younger cats who grow up in a time when we are kind of in a very conformist place. I mean, let's face it. I mean, there was a period of time where everything intermeshed, film and art, poetry, late 60s, early 70s. There were no barriers going on. And quite frankly, a lot of cats didn't even graduate music school because there was so much work. And now you go and it's like kind of a vanity project. Maybe you get a degree or you get good grades. But I don't know how you what is missing in the academy today that you think needs to change in order to revitalize individual sound. I can't pretend to create out of thin air a touring circuit, which there was that too. But just in general, what do you think is lacking today that was definitely there when you were in school?
Well, it's hard to say. Now, I think a lot of the kids nowadays, they get real enamored with people with big chops, fast chops and speed and lots of notes and all of that kind of stuff. But I think way more important than that is knowing tunes,
right?
Knowing great songs, great compositions. And you learn so much from just playing the melody of, for instance, All the Things You Are, or one of those great American songbook songs that have fabulous melodies and fabulous chord changes, And then, I'm a pianist. So early on, I was a guitarist, mostly rock guitarist, rock pop. But I love the jazz guitarists, also Wes Montgomery and people like that. But my favorite of all time jazz pianist was Bill Evans.
Oh, my God.
And
insane.
I learned so much from him. I think more importantly, and there are a lot of Bill Evans transcriptions that you can order online right now. Somebody went through the trouble of transcribing them, writing them down. But if you learn a transcription from an already written down transcription, you've done the same thing that you do in classical music. You just learn the notes
right.
as appear
exactly.
on the page. I think it's more important to sit down and do your own transcriptions and learn those, memorize those, learn tunes. Jack Peterson is probably one of those guys that knows a couple of 3,000 tunes.
Oh my God! I mean, the guy's going back to like before the swing era.
Yeah,
it's insane. Decade, but that's the thing is so. A lot. That's Chuck Israels when I interviewed him. I don't know if you ever met him before, the bass player who played with Bill. He said,
I did. I met him in New Orleans. He was in New Orleans playing with Bill at Rosie's.
Oh my God! You saw that band?
Oh yeah.
Who was it?
And
Like
Billy
Larry
Joe
Bunker?
Jones
Was it like Larry
played
Bunker
drums.
on drums or something?
Well, I think no, I think it was Philly Joe on drums.
Oh my
actually.
God! Are you kidding me? You saw the original that group?
Yeah.
Because what Chuck said was, you know, when he was growing up, it's not necessarily music that I'm going to turn to, but through the 50s, 40s and 50s, popular music was dictated and commercialized, commodified by adults. You had Glenn
Yep.
Miller, and you had a whole bunch of these other cats that I don't normally go. I mean, there's millions of copies of these records, but it was considered pop music, and it speaks to what you're talking about, the Great American Songbook, and let's face it, adults, in theory, at that time, a little bit more evolved ear. I mean, you had Pete Seeger, you had all this stuff going on, but it was commerce-based music was bought and consumed by adults, and then you had this invasion of, you know, the Love Generation in the mid '60s. You had a few million people show up after, you know, the War Babies. They got to be a certain age, and all of a sudden it became really hip to like whatever. Then all of a sudden it was let's market the music to the younger cats. So
Yeah.
as a result, you know, you have obviously some seminal bands and obviously some great stuff, but where's the song? Where's the melodies? Where's the songwriting that was prevalent back then? You know what I'm saying? Like, I wonder sometimes if younger musicians are reticent to learn that American song bag because it seems like it's really a part of the distant past. But then again, that's why they don't have a big bag of tunes. I'm just curious about like what you heard. Maybe it's self-evident, but with Oscar Peterson and Bill Evans, I mean, it was so melodic. The music was just so melodic, and it was beautiful.
Yeah.
And people could put lyrics to it. And I don't.
It was Jack Peterson that said this to me. To Ray, when I first met him, when I moved out to Denton, the North Texas area, Dallas, Denton area. And he said in a conversation with me, Ray, improvisation and tasteful improvisation is about one thing. How many melodies do you know?
Wow. That is it. That is it.
Great melodies. And so many of the cats, you know, they get all enamored with, yeah, Charlie Parker Bird, yeah. And they know lots of licks that they can apply and lots of different scales that they can apply to different chord progressions and all of that kind of stuff. But have they really developed the skill of improvising beautiful melodies on top of the chord changes? And that to me, that's why Bill Evans was my hero as far as his chord voicings and his left hand and his touch on the instrument. You know, he was classically trained. So when he was coming into New York from just starting his career from New Jersey, where he grew up, he had to make a decision. Am I going to be a classical musician or am I going to be a jazz musician? And his brother, Harry, you know, was band leader and he thrust Bill into his band. And Harry's band was basically a dance band that had and Harry did a lot of the arrangements in that band. And Bill said, well, wait a second, here's a page that doesn't have anything but slashes and chords over it. What do I do there? He said, and Harry says, figure out some melodies that worked with those chords. And that's what got started Bill into the jazz improvisation thing. And then, of course, he got with Miles Davis, which was a big stroke of luck, more than luck, because Miles loved Bill's play.
Yeah, it was so divine timing there, you know.
Yeah, but there was a great thing about it, and there was a terrible thing about being in Miles's band. The great thing was they made fantastic music, and the bad thing was that practically everybody in the band was a junkie.
Well, that I didn't. I didn't know when Bill started to use. I don't.
It was when he was with Miles. Yeah.
I mean, everybody, Jimmy Cobb and all those cats were using.
I don't know about Jimmy Cobb, but I know that Miles was. Miles. He got off it, but then he had already wrecked his liver.
Right.
So that's why he died so young. And same thing with Bill. Yeah, it's a shame.
I want to read. I want to.
Mundell.
Yeah. Go ahead.
You know about a guitar player named Mundell Lowe?
Well, I mean, Ray, we're totally connected on the divine level, and as I was just trying to intercede and cut you off there, I want to read you this story from my interview with Mundell Lowe. And I just can't believe you brought up his name. He said, when I came back from World War II, my then wife and child were living in Hemet, Louisiana, which is just outside New Orleans.
Yeah.
My wife's brother Raymond said, there's this piano player out here at the college, southeastern Louisiana, that you really got to hear. He took me out there. We walked into this hall, and there was a concert band playing, and you know who was playing first flute? Bill Evans. When they had a break and Raymond introduced us, we went into a little rehearsal studio. I said, play me something. So he played a couple of things, and I thought, this guy can hear. He really knows what he's doing. I said to him, when you finish your education here, come on back to Jersey, find me in New York, and let's do some work together. A year later, he showed up, and we did some gigs together along with Tony Scott. In the apartment, we had one of those beat-up upright pianos. He had been practicing on that. In the meantime, I had been recording for Riverside Records, so I called up Orrin Keepnews and said, Orrin, there's a guy you really need to hear. He said, Mundy, I'm up to my ass in piano players with Thelonious, etc. I said, but you need to hear this guy. In those days, I had one of those small Webcore recorders. In those days, you recorded on a metal thread, not tape. I had Bill play a couple of things, and I took it over to Riverside so Orrin could take a listen. He listened to a little while and said, I've got too many piano players. I said, you got to listen to this guy. He's got it all. So a little time goes by, and Orrin calls Bill, and they worked out a deal. I mean, you just cannot make up stuff like this. That is so... When did you first... So, you saw Bill in New Orleans in the early 70s?
When would that have been? That would have been middle 70s, middle to late 70s.
Now, had you played with had you crossed paths with Mundell before that?
I had met him once or twice.
Wow.
Because, he was from Mississippi
yeah.
originally. And, but then when I really connected with Mundell was when I started playing every year at the W.C. Handy Music Festival in Florence, Sheffield, Muscle Shoals. And he would come every year. Boy, I miss Mundy. And he was one of the regulars because he was from Mississippi. When he played that festival, all of his relatives from Mississippi and that area would drive over from Mississippi to the Handy Festival and visit with him. And I still stay in touch with his son, Adam. And, I don't talk to him frequently. I just occasionally text him and see, hey, Adam, how you doing, man? But,
dude, Mundell's spirit is here with us right now. I mean, we did such a beautiful, that dude was one of the heaviest dudes, and I will never, as long as I can continue on, I'm never going to allow his legacy to be forgotten. Now, what were you going to say about the junkie situation? Did Mundell try to get him off the junk? I mean, Mundell hated that stuff, but Mundell was also close.
Mundell was not. He smoked some pot.
Sure.
But he was not an alcoholic either. He'd have a beer or two maybe, and he'd smoke a little pot. But no, he was terrified of the junk situation. He said the great thing that really boosted Bill Evans' career was connecting with Miles Davis, and it was a good thing and a bad thing because of the heroin addiction that was rampant in Miles's band.
Yeah, I was going to ask you, where are you sourcing that good and bad from, and you got the best source in Mundell Lowe.
Yeah.
That was the thing. Steve Swallow told me. I mean, the generation before his, literally, I mean, they it was self-annihilation. There was such little research, and so many people were trying to be like Bird because they thought that that's where Bird got his sound from, that so many people just destroyed, and we're talking like guys in the 40s and 50s. And then, and then there was this whole thing in New York too that Mundell dealt with, where it was like, if you weren't on junk, then you weren't part of the clubs, quote unquote, or you were not trusted.
Yeah, that was kind of a misguided,
very
crazy thing that happened. Yeah, I wanted to say a brief thing about.
Please.
I told you I was graduate assistant to the creator of the jazz program at the University of Alabama, Steve Sample. Fabulous arranger. He was a great trombonist, a great acoustic bass player. And so I got to be the first graduate assistant that the University of Alabama provided funding for. And so that got me to the University of Alabama, and I directed the B Jazz Ensemble and played in the A Jazz Ensemble and wrote some arrangements for the A Jazz Ensemble.
Wow.
And they were both really good bands, very competitive. And I had a percussionist in my B Jazz band while I was there finishing my master's, named Beth Hardcastle, who is now Beth Gottlieb, drummer Danny Gottlieb's wife.
Dude, this is making my day. Danny's a good friend. It's just part of the tribe, man. And I think he lives in Nashville now, doesn't he?
Yes.
You don't live in Nashville. I'm sorry. I interviewed a guy today. Everything's just swirling around because I interviewed this keyboard player, Reese Winans. I don't know if that name rings a bell to you. He played with Barry Oakley and Dickie Betts in the Second Coming before the Allmans, and then was with Boz Scaggs, and then now he's with Joe Bonamassa. But it's interesting. One thing that I was curious about, Ray, because you worked with. Can you talk about, remember Roger Kellaway, a dear friend? He was involved with something in the mid-'60s called Music Concrete, where you would take environmental sounds, street sounds or ambient sounds, and then kind of put that. He did a concert at a library in New York with Eddie Gomez and Mel Lewis, and he recorded all these sort of music concrete, and he had them wear headphones and listen to that while they were playing the tunes. And it's pretty avant-garde stuff. But what was the most avant-garde? You played with a lot of classical people, and you played with a lot of. What was the most avant-garde setting that you played in? I don't care what genre of music it is, but looking back on it, what was the most free music that you played in a band?
Well, I never really was very enamored with the real free stuff. I've always been a pretty conservative player, but that's why actually Oscar Peterson gets a little too notey for me.
Yeah, I dig.
I like the guys, although he was amazing. I mean, my God, who had a technique
Dude,
like
he was
that.
ridiculous.
Yeah, and but Bill Evans never got real notey, but he just played beautiful melodies, and beautiful chord voicings, and he had such a beautiful touch on the piano because of his classical training.
It's the touch that melts my heart. But now that you talk about this layering of melodies and chord voicings, that's exactly what it is, because every time I throw on that Live from the Village Vanguard with LaFaro and Motion, it sounds different every time I play it, because not only is LaFaro reinventing how to play the bass at that time, but also, Bill's just layering all those voicings, and it's not your traditional trio jazz set. And yet, there was still amazing stuff going on with Claire Fisher on the West Coast. Don Friedman was another cat. You were in your own. So, at a certain point, did you wind up, another dear friend who's left us, and just an amazing player. Again, not a notey player, but just in your face, really grooving, heavy, chordal player was Ellis Marsalis.
Oh, sure.
And like,
I produced an album. I need to send you a copy of it.
please, no. When did you start really? Well, first of all, like, why were you in New Orleans to see Bill? When did you start getting into that New Orleans jazz scene?
Well, it was when I was director of jazz studies at UAB, University of Alabama, Birmingham, and we had a weekend jazz festival, annual jazz festival, and so we brought Ellis in to play, and we have a wonderful rehearsal band in Birmingham called the Super Jazz Band. It's a big band, 5 trumpets, 5 saxes, a lot of the sax players, double clarinets and flutes and other instruments, 5 trombones, piano, guitar, bass, drums, percussion. It's a classic big band. And we brought Ellis in to do a performance at the Alice Stevens Center, which is the beautiful concert hall at UAB. ALYS, Alice Stevens, Stephegens. And anyhow, we brought him, and his backup band was the Super Jazz Big Band. And my friend Dan Ganey, who has retired from that now, but he was the eldest son of my voice professor. You know, I have a degree in voice, classical voice.
I was listening to Route 66. You got a great soul voice too.
Oh, and so Dan was there. I said, well, this would be a shame not to record this performance of Ellis with the Super Jazz Band. And we did that. And I told you, Henry Panion, who was then the head of the department at the UAB, he went to the dean and got money to pay Ellis the extra money for the recording. And anyhow, so I still have a few copies of that. I'd be happy to send you one.
I would love that.
But it's a really first class big band recording featuring Ellis Marsalis.
I was going to ask you, did you have an experience, even when as a young boy, of going to a medicine show?
No.
That was the other thing, is because a lot of the guys like Levon, Helm, did you ever cross paths with the band ever?
No, I know all about them, and I have a couple of friends who had come in close contact with them.
Yeah,
and of course, that's a whole different strain of blues-ish, R&B-ish, pop-ish, all the stuff mixed. It's a kind of a mixed bag, as you know.
It's a total mixed bag, and a lot of that is because, Levi, the old dirt farmer from Arkansas, but then all the other cats were from Toronto,
Yeah, exactly.
Like, did you, I guess more to the point, how would you a lot of people, say that jazz, that word, whatever it means, started in New Orleans. There were a lot of brothels there, and John Hendricks told me that he actually said, he goes, it was a lot of very, very much a Sicilian mob-run town, but he said the Sicilians really respected the genius of the colored musicians, and they'd rub their head for good luck and all this stuff, and they paid him. They paid him what they gave him gigs, and then obviously it snuck up into Harlem, became a bastion, but how would you describe the regional sound? Not in a jazz way, just what is the regional sound of Tuscaloosa, of Alabama?
It's hard to say. If you're looking in the blues, pop, R&B, even the country players in Alabama have a certain amount of jazz influence. You probably know about the band Alabama.
Of course.
And those guys grew up listening to, Delta blues and all kinds of mixes together. And they were really good songwriters, and they played together at this Dives bar just over the Georgia border, and that's how they got their act together, Alabama. And anyhow,
I mean,
Jeff Cook, just passed away this past year, Alabama.
dude, I Ray Reach, you're making. First of all, you're not going to get away with this either. Yeah, I mean, I'm reading here. Please tell me how you acquired your first mini Moog.
Well,
because I know that you were being influenced by. Well, I mean, whatever it came. I mean, to me, if you got one in '69, that predates Jan Hammer and Chick Corea. I mean,
oh yeah.
I mean, were you like a beaver? What were you enjoying with the? How did you get them? I need to hear this story.
Well, I had a mini Moog, and the doggone thing, the early ones, they would drift out of tune so easily.
Right.
I kept it for about a year and then sold it. But I still have, I think I told you, I still have my old Fender Rhodes that I bought in 1960, 65.
Oh, my God.
Yeah. And it still plays beautifully. And of course, I don't like to carry that thing around so dang heavy. I've got a Yamaha keyboard, though, that's got that Fender Rhodes sound sampled in it, and the keyboard weighs 23 pounds.
I dig. No, I it's a drag, but I do want you. I remember when I interviewed the late, great Pat Martino. I'm not sure if you ever saw him or, obviously you know him.
Oh, yeah. Number of times.
Did you see him?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, my God. This is insane. So, I mean, with Pat, he was on top of the world. He was I shouldn't say that. He was one of the best guitar players in the world, but he was having these insane migraine headaches. I'm sure you've seen the documentary. Maybe not, but he, they kept giving him electric shock therapy. They institutionalized him. All the time, he's still making great albums. And then he has, one day, it just gets too bad. He's out in California. He goes into the hospital, and the doctor says, you got a tumor the size of a pear behind your left ear. We have to do surgery immediately or your brain's going to explode. And he gathered himself and flew back to Philadelphia, had the surgery, and when he woke up, there were two people standing over him, and he didn't recognize either one, and it was his parents. And he saw all the guitars on the wall from awards and this, that, and he didn't know what any of it meant. So basically, part of his memory he had amnesia, just erased. And what brought him back to music, he was very depressed. He was very depressed for obvious reasons. And in the early 80s, the thing that brought him back was computer music. And I'm curious about your work with MIDI instrumentation, but also like what gets you going about that computer-based music. He started making music with computers, and within a few years, he was back on the bandstand. And
yeah, well, the mini Moog, I never got deep into that. Beyond a Fender Rhodes, I'm a piano player.
Dig.
And even as a guitarist, I had a couple of pedals, and that was it. I didn't have this big pedal board like all the guys have 25 different pedals, that they run there. No, I'm pretty much a purist.
Yeah, you let it come out, dude. This, by the way, are there any tapes of you playing guitar back in the circus days or anything like that?
I don't think so.
Jesus.
If they have, they've deteriorated. That. I mean, we had some stuff that we did at rehearsals on a wall and sack reels.
Yeah, my mind just broke, dude. I'm not reel-to-reel tape player, but that's amazing.
Yeah. I have a 16-track Tascam reel-to-reel recorder. And but mainly I'm a singer. I'm a very conservative Great American Songbook singer. And I wrote, I guess, somewhere around 1,600 big band arrangements. And so I've got a lot of skill at that, the contemporary big band, but not a real crazy, wild, just swinging, beautiful chord voicings. all of that stuff.
No, what I'm saying is though, but I mean, you're not going to tell me that Ray Reach wasn't. I mean, we did talk a little bit about that British invasion music. Cream,
that was
Hendrix.
guitar primarily.
I know. No, I mean, what I'm saying is you were a no frills. No, you didn't need. Maybe you had a. I don't know, like you never had a wah pedal or anything like that. You just let it.
I did have a wah-wah pedal.
See, I knew you did. I knew you had a wah-wah pedal.
Well, when you're going out and you're playing commercial dance music at a fraternity party at University of Alabama, the wah-wah pedal was very popular at that point. It was and I'm also influenced. I loved the Memphis groove, Isaac Hayes.
And the Stax stuff was insane. Yeah, Stax Volt.
Yeah, Stax Volt. And I had a very good friend who unfortunately died of cancer a couple of years ago, Tim Goodwin, who came every year to the Handy Festival. And Tim went to the University of Miami, and then he got a job as head of jazz studies at University of Memphis. And now it used to be Memphis State University. Now it's called the University of Memphis. And he was a wonderful bassist, guitarist, composer, arranger, and another guy that came to. So I worked several years in a row, 10, 12, maybe 15 years in a row every year at the Handy Festival with Tim, and another fellow named Bill Goodwin.
He's a dear friend. Bill's a big advocate for the Jake 5. Did a couple interviews with Bill. He's an awesome cat. Amazing drummer.
Oh, yeah. Well, and if you look online...
I saw that. I saw the credits. I see your the discography is woefully underappreciated. It's not... The people that you've played with are there. But, I mean, like, there's no... Like, last night, you talking about the stuff that you did down... with Joe South, there's nothing online. You go to All Music. Your discography, as an accompanist, is really not where it needs to be.
Well, I'm not.
I mean, you don't care about that. Yeah, that's why I like that. I mean, I was going to say, did you, because I'm sure people were in your ear at a certain point, Reach, if you're really going to make it, when you were playing, whether you're playing piano or guitar, you got to go to New York, man. You got to, if you're going to make it, if you're going to cut it with the big boys, you got to go to New York. And obviously, you had a lot going on, and you are Bama, strong Crimson Tide vibe, And did you ever, whether or not it was successful or not, did you actually try to leave your regional hotbed and try to go and make it somewhere else?
No. Well, not unless you include Dallas-Fort Worth area.
Well, what happened there?
Not competitive.
What happened in Dallas?
Well, I went to University of North Texas, and I played in the 1 O'Clock band. I didn't think I was good enough to make it into the 1 O'Clock band, and Dan Hurley talked me into auditioning. And I got it, to my surprise.
So good.
And I was very surprised that I got into the 1 O'Clock band. Do you know about Dan Hurley and his history?
I am not hip to, but you're always talking about other people. I want to talk about you.
Well,
Wait, hold on a second. Because Dallas, by the way, what year were you in the 1 O'Clock band?
85.
So you went back later.
Yeah.
You went back later. Okay, so tell me about Hurley.
Dan was one of the founders, along with Jack Peterson, and the developers of the jazz curriculum at North Texas. And
wow.
My friend Lou Marini, by the way, never did finish a degree.
No. He's not alone either.
Yeah. I personally, he's been so successful in the music world They should give him an honorary degree, but they don't listen to me.
Well, I mean, he's too humble. I mean, a lot of that stuff, he's just not. He's so humble, He doesn't even need the degree, man. He's got. I was at his apartment in New York City about 3 years ago. I mean, his walls are decorated with all types of different music that he played on that made gold records.
So you were at Blue Lou's apartment, Broadway and 90th.
You better believe it, baby.
How about that?
Dude, I'll send you that. We did a great video interview from his apartment. He plays piano too. I haven't talked to him in a minute. Love that guy, and I just know that he's still here. But Mundell and all these men. Honestly, Ray, you've lived. Do you feel like you've lived? Do you feel great? Have you always? It seems like you're very humble, but and you never wanted to draw attention to yourself. Can you talk about how the music has kept you young and inspired to keep growing? I mean, the fact that Jack Peterson is still on this planet speaks to the soul of music. Music heals you. And obviously, if you kill yourself, you get junked out, or like with Bill and Miles and those, you get cut short. And I'm not trying to be like preachy or anything, but I just want you to talk about how the music continues even to this day to keep you young at heart.
Oh, absolutely. I'm so very fortunate to do something that I love to do for a living now for almost 52 years. So the traveling part, the hassles of travel that you run into, as you know, I'm not really enamored with that, but I love to make good music with good players. And I think it was 1999, Marini, I brought him down to be our guest at our annual jazz festival at UAB. And while he was here, I took him out to Bates Brothers Recording, and he met those guys. And it's a world-class recording studio, and get this, Hueytown, Alabama.
Right. You were telling me they've been open for about 35 years. 39 years, yeah. But we recorded an album of all Lou's charts called Lou's Blues. Yes.
And a lot of the songs on it were original tunes of his. And it was it was a spin-off of the Super Jazz Band, a lot of the same guys that played in Super Jazz, but I called it the Magic City Jazz Orchestra. Birmingham became known as the Magic City because of its rapid growth rate during the industrial era, steel production. It was the Pittsburgh of the South.
Wow, man, this is beautiful knowledge. I didn't know that.
Yeah, and now the biggest employer in the state is UAB. So it's flipped over from being steel production, all of that stuff, to being medical practices. UAB has the third largest medical center in the United States.
Right, research, development, all that stuff. Yeah,
exactly. So,
but really though, you're talking about the Pittsburgh of the South. That industrial era, jazz, as you know, was very much a blue collar music. I remember Ramsey Lewis talking about that to me in our interview in Chicago, and people would come. I mean, Art Blakey said it. He goes, "My job is to wash away the dust of everyday life for the people that come to see me." And so that's really where that blues and that amazing jazz came from, because those cats that were working the steel mills were primarily blue-collar cats. Whereas today...
I bet you know Greg Fishman and his wife, Judy Roberts.
It's so funny. My dear brother, uncle... not blood related. George Marsh. Do you know him? He's a drummer. Played with Denny Zeitlin. West Coast guy. So you don't. He has been asking for me to interview Judy. Yeah, those guys have sort of flashed on me, but and I see Judy's records, but I don't. It's funny. That's you brought up 29 guys, and I've interviewed them. I haven't gotten to those cats yet.
Well, Judy's has some health problems. But she was, in her youth especially, incredible singer, incredible jazz Great American Songbook / jazz player, and didn't read, all done by ear.
Wow.
And Greg, he's her devoted husband and takes care of her, helps take care of her health situation. And they play during the warmer months. They're up in Chicago area. During the colder months, they have a home down in Arizona somewhere, I think it is.
Yeah, that's why there's the fish. I know I've heard of his name before.
Yeah, he's a fabulous player. I've only met him once or twice at the Jazz Education Network conference. But
what do you think? Where is this? Do you spend any time thinking about? Have we reached a point where? I mean, I remember Gene Perla telling me that he had a conversation with Dave Liebman about, primarily jazz, but I mean, a lot of stuff has already been done. It's hard to create or invent something when so much has already been invented. And I wonder, I remember, I don't know if you ever knew the drummer from Nashville, a legendary studio drummer, could also play jazz, was Kenny Malone. Did you know him?
Just by name.
Yeah.
Larry London was another guy based in Nashville that could play jazz.
Right.
Jazz.
So could Joe Allen, too. But those...
Bob Mader is another guy that I know personally. I've worked with him a bunch. He's a fabulous all-around player, studio musician, jazz player, whatever.
1971. It's called the Neon Philharmonic. And the cats who produced it, I'm curious, you probably knew this cat because Norbert talked about him, Tupper Saucy.
Yeah.
Don Gant, Bob McCluskey, and then here are some of the studio cats. I just want to read it out to you. Don Sheffield, George Tidwell, Dennis Good, Norbert Putnam.
Tidwell, I know.
Norbert Putnam, Chip Young, Jerry Kerrigan, Kenneth Buttry, Chet Atkins, Mickey Newberry, Larry Henley, Ray Stevens, and Norris Wilson.
Oh my gosh! Yeah.
I mean, this is like it's like a psychedelic. I mean, they're doing a play on the New York Philharmonic. This is called the Neon Philharmonic. It's really a great record.
So, have you ever interviewed Norbert?
Dude, I didn't want to deluge you, but dude, Norbert and I are like buddies, dude. I love him so much, and he is such a great storyteller, and he's had his hand in so many different musical cookie jars,
Yep, Joan Baez, for instance.
When did you first cross paths with Norbert?
It was at one of the Handy festivals, probably about, 20, maybe 25 years ago. Wow. And I knew about his produced Dan Fogelberg and Jimmy Buffett.
Are you kidding me? Dude, he was doing like Dwayne. He was doing like he also did like epic West Coast stuff with like New Riders of the Purple Sage. Those stories are epic when he went out there to deal with those cats.
Yep. Well, there's a guy, interesting. I have a connection too to Austrian jazz players.
Really?
And in particular, a guy who came, let's see, I was playing a regular gig at a place on the south side of Birmingham called the Courtyard. It was an after-hours club, and we had a pretty good jazz band. And one day I'm up practicing, and this very heavily German-accented voice comes over, calls me on my cell phone, says, "Hello, my name is this Ray Rich, the jazz musician." I said, "Yeah. I heard that you was the man to talk to in Birmingham about the jazz." My name is Peter Wolf. I am from Vienna, Austria. I was a student of Joe Zawinul.
Dude, I just got chills, man. I mean, Joe has been, the last few months, Joe has been protecting me and giving me a lot of light. I can't believe you just dropped that.
Yeah. Well, so Peter, he came to Atlanta and couldn't find much work. I'm trying to think of the guitar player. Carl Rotzer was a guitar player that was based in Atlanta. And he and Peter back in Austria had a band called the Objective Truth Orchestra.
Oh, my God. Dude, that is the greatest line for a band. That's the greatest band name I've ever heard in my life.
And
oh my God.
Peter, at the behest of Carl, who was living and working, getting quite a few gigs in the Atlanta area, said, Peter, you should come to Atlanta. Well, he couldn't find much work in Atlanta, so he calls me from Atlanta on his phone. I said, well, Peter, I could help you get some work. I have no big promises, but actually he moved to Birmingham. He found a house to rent, and he worked here for, I don't know, a year or two, and then he loaded up. He bought this old Oldsmobile Cutlass and hooked a U-Haul trailer on the back of it and moved to Los Angeles. And the next thing I know, Peter calls me and says, hey, Ray, you will not believe I got the gig playing with Frank Zappa.
Yeah, that's right. Oh my God. He was in the Mothers of Invention.
He was in the Mothers with Frank Zappa. Yes. And
wow.
He and his wife, his first wife, Ina Ganal, they co-wrote the song "We Built the City on Rock and Roll."
Oh my God!
And Peter produced that recording, with whatever they were calling themselves then, Jefferson Starship or whatever.
Right. Oh my! Wait, hold. You still stay in touch with him?
Not very well.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's an amazing musician. I mean, he could play the stew out of funk. I mean, anything funky, because Joe Zawinul taught him how to do it.
Dude, Joe Zawinul was one of the funk. I mean, when you mentioned your Fender Rhodes from '65, the first guy that came into my head was Zawinul when he was playing with Cannonball.
Oh yeah.
Did you see that band?
Well, Julian Adderley, I'm going to tell you a story. This happened, I think, 1974, I believe it was. One of the years they first started having the Newport Jazz Festival in New York. And me and a bass player that was working with me at the time and my first wife drove to New York. And, I mean, we drove straight through, no stops, except for meals. And the first concert that we sat down was we had bought tickets ahead of time, was in Carnegie Hall, and it was Keith Jarrett, Jan Garbarek, Charlie Hayden. I've forgotten who the drummer was.
Probably Billy Higgins.
Probably.
That's unbelievable that you were so sleep deprived, and the first thing you see is this insane group.
Yeah. And then, the guy that I was sitting down next to was a very well-dressed and mannerly black guy.
Oh, my God.
Who was a friend of Cannonball Adderley. And anyhow, so I had by the way, I heard Cannonball Adderley back during the Civil Rights movement.
Absolutely. Now, I because I don't know if you ever knew this guy. Again, like Mundell, he's in my soul right now, and he's really healing me. Is a guy who played in the first integrated band in Florida with Cannonball, and he was a piano player named Mike Longo. Did you ever hear that name?
I've heard that name. Yep.
Okay, rest in peace. Mike left us a couple years ago. He played. His dad was a band director, and there was a lot of segregation, as you know, in Alabama, but also in Florida.
Well, Julian Adderley was a junior high school band director.
Well, no. So this is the story. So Longo's dad, there's a concert, and at that time, they heard about Julian, and they invited him over to play with their band, and it was this beautiful night in Florida, and the audience was aghast. I mean, you heard the screams or the gasps in the crowd when someone of color got up on the bandstand and he played "Stars Fell on Alabama," and he was probably he was in high school. It was heavy stuff.
Oh yeah. Speaking of "Stars Fell on Alabama," that rightfully should be the state song of Alabama. But
It's not?
No. We've got this terrible, stupid, hokey thing that was written by Julia Tutwiler.
They want to keep the people. They just want to They want to dumb it down for the people.
Yeah, but it's such a beautiful song.
Oh my God!
"Stars Fell on Alabama." Who would that not appeal to? It's a beautiful melody. Beautiful chord changes.
So yeah, at that show, did the cat that knew Julian? Did you get to meet Cannon or no?
No, I actually spoke on the phone with him.
Yeah.
And but it never did work out for me to connect. I was on a limited budget. I was just a college.
Yeah, you were just a scrappy, hungry college cat. Wanted to see some.
Yeah.
Now, but as we wrap up, dude, we just blew through another hour here. I do want to ask you about Dizzy Gillespie.
Oh yeah.
Like when. I guess that's the other thing. When even though like Cannon or Max Roach or Dizzy, even before you maybe played with Dizzy or met him, did you get a chance to see those seminal bands with James Moody and stuff like before you got to play with Dizzy or?
Yeah, I heard Cannonball Adderley's band. At during the Civil Rights Movement. At a hotel, what's the name of the hotel here in Birmingham, where all the civil rights cats, Martin Luther King, stayed there.
Oh my God! Wow, this is insane.
So I would traipse down to that club. They had a club, and they had all these incredible jazz musicians playing there, and that's where I heard Cannonball Adderley live, and totally blew me away. I'd never heard anybody so lyrical in my life. And then through that connection, I got very interested in that. And Bill Goodwin, who produced Phil Wood's records and
Bill Goodwin played on Bob DeRoe's Multiplication Rock records. To this day, still the funkiest children's record I've ever heard in my life.
Yep. Well, Bill, I don't think he's doing it anymore. I haven't worked at the Handy Festival in 3 or 4 years now because I've had bunches of conflicts. But anyhow, that's how I met Bill, was through that connection, and Bill Goodwin and Tim Goodwin was the bass player that I told you about. No relation, but they just happen to have the same last name.
Well, I want to be clear. You first crossed paths with Bill during that civil rights era?
No. It was. He may have been in Cannonball. I don't know if he was.
You know what he was? You know what's really tripped out is there was a bass player originally from Chicago. He became very well known as a studio bass player in Los Angeles, Ray Neapolitan. Him and Bill Goodwin backed up a gospel group in the South. It would have been really tripped out if you had met Bill during that time. That was early, but yeah.
I met Bill playing at the Handy Festival. About 20, maybe 25 years ago. That's when I first met him, because he would come every year to play at the WC Handy Festival.
How did you meet? So talk about your meeting with with Dizzy.
With Dizzy?
Yeah.
Actually, I told you my mentor at the University of Alabama was Steve Sample, and he brought Dizzy Gillespie in to concertize with the A band. I had graduated at that point. I had finished my master's degree. But he brought in me and a lady bass player that I worked with who was in the A band with me, Allison Prestwood, who is a personal friend of Cheryl Kay, the lady bassist.
Oh, my God. My God.
Is from Montgomery, Alabama. She moved to Atlanta, got a lot of studio work there, and eventually moved to Nashville. right now she's on the road or about to go on the road with Peter Frampton.
You told me about. Wait, so she's the first. She's the hot bassist up in Nashville. She's still cooking.
Yeah, she's happening, and she's toured with Sean Colvin, the country singer.
Sure.
Her records, yeah. And Allison is a terrific gal and a terrific bass player. She's playing on all but about 3 cuts on my album, Rhythm and Salvation.
What does that title mean to you?
Well, this friend of mine named Steve Lowry, who's a fabulous artist, and he's done albums.
No, you asked Steve Lowry about Jake Feinberg. He is a huge. He knows the kind of work I've been doing on Facebook on new media.
Okay.
Yeah, I've seen his work because he's around you. He's like kind of one of your peers, maybe a little bit younger.
Well, Steve and I played in a band years ago when we were in high school.
Wow.
Called the Echoes. And anyhow, and I still kind of stay in touch with Steve a bit, but he came to one of the recording sessions on my album, and we played back a couple of cuts we just finished mixing. He said, "Oh my God, this is good. This is like Rhythm and Salvation."
Wow.
I said, what
Lowry naming the album. I love that.
Yep. So, anywho, that's God. We know a lot of people in common, don't we?
Ray, what's amazing is, like, you have sort of. It's been a kaleidoscopic journey with you because, you obviously give everybody else all the publicity and talk about all the people that influenced you. And so many of the people are guys that, Bones came to Tucson, where I live in Tucson, Arizona, to do a clinic at a high school. So, I've gotten to meet a lot of these guys, but also to like do definitive interviews with them about things that they've never talked about, haven't thought about since. He's talking about Bones Malone's talking about playing electric bass with Les and Larry Elgert.
Yeah.
And actually he turned down and he turned.
Bones plays all wind instruments, all reeds, double reeds, all brass.
Yeah, well, that's the reason I brought up Levon is because that RCO All-Stars band, it was Alan Rubin, Blue Lou, Howard Johnson, Bones Malone, Booker T, Duck Dunn. I mean that was after the band, but those guys that's the greatest, one of the greatest bands of all time.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
I've got a joke about Alan Rubin.
Oh, go ahead.
The Blues Brothers were playing a gig. I don't remember where it was, but the former president Clinton was in the band. He plays a little bit of tenor sax.
Sure.
And anyhow, they invite him up on stage, and Alan Rubin leans over to Marini and says, "I don't know if I play that. Let him play your sax. You don't know where that mouth has been."
It's classic. Clinton. We need a president that has some soul.
That's true.
And Ray, I got to tell you, man. I'm so honored that you reached out to me originally about Wayne, and I'm glad we got a chance to put this together.
Oh yeah.
But the other thing I want to ask you is to think about your peers and people like, Peterson. I would really like to get to all the cats that are still with us. It's really important. If they're up for doing interviews, this is a really interesting period of part of the country that I haven't been able to really get into until you reached out to me.
Well, Jack is a fabulous guy. By the way, did you know that that's Jack Peterson playing guitar on the Andy Griffith Show theme song?
Yeah, no, that dude is up there with Les Paul. Like that's what we're talking about there.
Exactly
Yeah,
right.
yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
And you just don't make people like that anymore. So
No, you don't. You don't. And there's so many. Well, we're talking about Mundell, and he grew up, of course, in Mississippi, played country music.
that's right.
And then he played trombone in his high school marching band. And his marching band director at the high school where he attended in Mississippi there was also a pretty good guitarist. And he said, Monday, all of my friends who get all the studio work up north, that's what Monday was inspiring. He was aspiring to go to New York and become a studio player up there. He says, you got to learn how to read the notes and read them real good, be a good sight reader. So Mundy bought a Mel Bay book and taught himself how to sight read the notes on the guitar, and then moved to New York, and that's when he got the job as the guitar player on The Tonight Show in the days of Jack Parr.
This is so beautiful, man. Yeah, no, he was there, man. He was there. He was there with Tony Scott and Bill Evans. And then really the Mundell that I love the most is when he relocated to the West Coast and started doing so much studio work out there. He did a couple of his own solo albums, but he was doing like the soundtrack for Billy Jack, things like that.
That's right.
He was. I'll send you that interview because my opening question was about asking about Bill Monroe, and I think he didn't meet Bill for a while, but anyway, yeah. And I don't know if Peterson's up for an interview, but I'd love to talk to him.
Oh yeah, he probably would be. I think I have a current cell phone number on him.
You want to just
call him?
Call him and see if it's cool. The fact that I just remember John Abercrombie in our interview was raving about Peterson, raving.
Oh yeah,
it's unbelievable. And he was on the Tonight. Who was in that band? I guess I'll have to ask him. That's insane.
Yeah, I don't know about
that. Is so. That's like the beginning of it. In the beginning, man. That is so insane.
Yeah. And I'll tell you who else could tell you a lot about on Monday is a great bass player that lives in the Nashville area named Jim Ferguson.
Ferguson.
Mundell did 2 or 3 albums together. Ferguson is both a great crooner style singer and a great acoustic and electric bass player.
Is he your generation?
Yeah, he's approximately. I'm 2 or 3 years, maybe 4 years older than him. Maybe 5.
Ferguson. Wow.
Jim Ferguson, and I have his. I think I have his.
Yeah. Well, why don't instead of doing it over the phone, why don't you text me these? Make sure it's cool with them. But I and Perkins too, and then I'll reach out to him.
Yeah, as far as Perkins, he lives right here in the Birmingham area, about a 15-minute drive from where I live.
Oh, my God. No, I mean, my dream is to come down there, hang with you guys, hopefully Norbert. I don't know. How far is Norbert from you?
Norbert's about a 2.5-hour drive. He still lives in the Florence area.
He's down in unbelievable.
Although he's been talking, he has this old house near the university there, a beautiful old house that he and his wife Cheryl refurbished.
Yeah, I think he called it a mansion.
It is.
Yeah, so we have to meet there in the very near future, man. That's going to be the hang right there. I'm calling Norbert right now, letting him know I had a ball with Ray Reach, man.
Cool. Tell him I said hey, and hope. I just talked to him a few weeks ago on the phone.
No, he's going to be laughing hysterically, dude. I really just you can't make this stuff up. So anyway, yeah, man. When you talk to Perk and if whenever I'll take care of the rest, but just let me know how to get a hold of these guys.
Cool.
Much love to you, Ray Reach.
Well, I'll call Jack and see how he feels about doing an interview.
Yeah, tell him 20 minutes. I mean, it's nothing. Just real,
yeah.
Quick. Just to hear his voice.
Yeah. Wonderful.
All right, man. Good to hear you,
That's a
brother.
terrific
Much love
guy.
to you, man.
All right.
Be cool.
Wonderful to talk to you. Thanks so much.
Talk to you soon.
Okay.
Later.
Bye-bye.
Bye.